American people are behind us on this whole war effort. They're tired of the war, costs too much money, too many people get killed, too many people get injured, too many people get sick, and the majority, maybe 70 or 80% of the American people now are saying it's time to get out of Afghanistan. So those are the issues. Those are the issues that we have brought front and center. They're out there. They're not going to go away. And we have tremendous opportunity to continue this momentum. It won't be long that there's going to be an election up in New Hampshire. And believe me, this momentum is going to continue. And this movement is going to continue. And we are going to keep scoring, just as we have tonight. So tonight we have come out of an election, and we're essentially three winners, three top vote getters, and we will go on. We will raise the money. I have no doubt about the volunteers. They're going to be there. A lot of you have said, and you thank me and you compliment me and thank me for helping you along. But let me tell you, you helped me along. You helped my family along. All our work, our supporters, because without your enthusiasm, we can't do it. And this is where I feel most obligated. You know, we want to do the job, present the case, and if anything isn't perfect, I worry not about myself. I worry about you and making sure that you're satisfied. I think there's nothing to be ashamed of, everything to be satisfied, and be ready and raring to move on to the next stop, which is New Hampshire. I have another speaker, a special guest tonight. He's been with us this evening. Matter of fact, he's been with us in our campaign for quite a few years. And you may have met him because he's been around here this evening. But I'd like him to come out and say a few words. He's been serving in the military for 10 years, and he's been overseas a lot. A lot of it was in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he was on TV tonight, and he didn't quite get to finish his statement. So I've asked him if he would come out and make his comments about why he supports our foreign policy, why he is fighting for the Constitution, and what he thinks we should do. But I would like to invite out now Jesse Thorson to come out and say a few words to you. Thank you.
How about Ron Paul? If there's any man out there that's had a vision for this country, it is definitely him. His foreign policy is by far, hands down, better than any candidates out there, and I'm sure you all know that. We don't need to be picking fights overseas, and I think everybody else knows that too. I'm flabbergasted right now. This is an incredible moment for me. I can't believe it. It's like meeting a rock star. But you know what? We're going to go to New Hampshire. We're all going to get involved. We're going to keep getting online. We're going to keep talking to people. And we are going to make sure this man is the next president of the United States.
Jesse Thorson, I think he was introduced as a soldier. Striking to see him in uniform speaking on behalf of Dr. Paul.
That is a powerful message. And once again, we all know where the active military people send their money when they're campaigning. They send it to our campaign for liberty, our campaign for the Constitution, our campaign for limited government, our campaign for personal liberty and privacy, and a wise foreign policy. The most important thing we have to remember is we want to have influence in the world. That's very important. We want to be active in the world. We want to talk to people and work to people, trade with people, and be friends with people. But what we need to realize is our ways. You know, there's people who say that we are an exceptional nation, and we certainly are and have been, but we're slipping. But this idea that our exceptionalism out of desperation say that we are so exceptional, what we must do is prove it to the world. We have to send our troops around the world and force it down their throats. If they don't do it, we'll, invade them and occupy them and force election on them. I'll tell you the best way to spread our message, and that is do our job at home. Preserve our liberties at home. Provide the free market. Have a sound currency. Balance the budget. Set an example and get them, the rest of the world, to emulate us. That is the road to peace and prosperity. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ron Paul speaking at his campaign headquarters to a very boisterous group of supporters. Ron Paul looking actually happier personally there than you usually see him looking on the stump. I will say his son, Senator Rand Paul, who was evident just behind him, just over his shoulder, throughout those remarks, looking stern. Worse than stern throughout those remarks, looking very, very serious, even as his father looked so happy. A lot of people have looked to Senator Rand Paul as a potential inheritor of his father's legacy. I will just note that Ron Paul took sort of a swipe at Rick Santorum, implicitly describing him as unable to run a national campaign or raise the money to compete at the national level. Also of note, Mr. Paul talking about maybe dropping out of NATO, making an Austrian economics joke, and attacking the Federal Reserve. So in case you were wondering if he was going to try to broaden his base tonight, Ron Paul did not go there. What you're looking at right now is Newt Gingrich headquarters in Iowa. Let's pause to hear from Mr. Gingrich.
Good evening. We all know that the 2012 election is about jobs and the economy. We know that Americans demand a candidate with ideas and solutions to rebuild the America we love. There is only one Reaganite conservative in this election, and we just punched his ticket for New Hampshire.
Well, thank you, Linda, and I want to thank Linda Upmeyer, the Majority Leader in the House, and Greg Gansky, my former colleague in the Congress, who really all summer held this together when really it could have fallen apart. I want to thank everybody who worked all fall, particularly during the avalanche of negative ads. And Calista and I want to thank the people of Iowa, all through being drowned in negativity. Everywhere we went, people were positive, they were receptive, they were willing to ask questions, they would listen, and they really wanted to get to the truth rather than the latest 30-second distortion. And it really gave us a feeling that this process does work. I am delighted to be here tonight, and I think that we are at the beginning of an extraordinarily important campaign. The ultimate goal of this campaign has to be to replace Barack Obama and get America back on the right track. But let's be clear. One of the things which became obvious in the last few weeks in Iowa is that there will be a great debate in the Republican Party before we are prepared to have a great debate with Barack Obama. And I think it's very important to understand that. And I want to take just a minute and congratulate a good friend of ours, somebody who we admire and whose family we admire, and that's Rick Santorum. He waged a great, positive campaign. I served with Rick. We've had a great relationship over the years. And I admire the courage, the discipline, the way he focused. And I also admire how positive it was. I wish I could say that for all the candidates. But here's the key thing to ask. It's not just about beating Obama, as important as that is. It's about what do we need to do as a country to get back on the right track. And that's a lot bigger than just replacing one person in the White House. That's fixing the Congress, fixing the bureaucracy, fixing the courts, resetting the culture, getting the judges to understand that they operate within the Constitution, not above it. There are tremendous steps we have to take. And we have to reestablish the work ethic and recognize we want to reward work, not redistribution. That we want to reward paychecks, not food stamps. And this is going to be a very important national conversation. But it's not just about here at home. We also have to understand, and this will be a major debate with Congressman Paul, who's had a very good night, and I congratulate him on having done very well. But the fact is, his views on foreign policy, I think, are stunningly dangerous for the survival of the United States. And I think it's a very simple question, which I would be glad at the next debate to ask Congressman Paul. If you have a terrorist who is prepared to put on a bomb and wear it as a vest and walk into a grocery store or a mall or a bus and blow themselves up as long as they can kill you, why would you think that if they could get access to a nuclear weapon, they wouldn't use it? An Iranian nuclear weapon is one of the most frightening things we have to confront for the future of every young person up here and every young person out there. If they are going to live in safety, they have to live in a world in which there is no Iranian nuclear weapon, period. So, on that front, we'll have a very important debate. Is the world dangerous, and do we need to be strong enough to protect ourselves? Or is the world really safe, and it's just the Americans who are confused? I have no doubt about 9/11. It was bad people trying to kill us. It wasn't Americans. I have no doubt about the Iranians, and I have no doubt about the importance of the survival of Israel as a moral cause, which we have to recognize as central to our future. So, we'll have a great debate with Congressman Paul. And it's important for setting a new, stable foreign policy for the 21st century. We'll have one other great debate, and that is whether this party wants a Reagan conservative who helped change Washington in the 1980s with Ronald Reagan and helped change Washington in the 1990s as Speaker of the House, somebody who is into changing Washington, or we want a Massachusetts moderate who, in fact, will be pretty good at managing the decay, but has given no evidence in his years at Massachusetts of any ability to change the culture or change the political structure or change the government. Now, let me be clear, because I think it's important given all the things that were done in this state over the last few weeks. We are not going to go out and run nasty ads. We're not going to go out and run 30-second gotchas. We're not. But I do reserve the right to tell the truth. And if the truth seems negative, that may be more a comment on his record than it is on politics. So this is going to be a debate that begins tomorrow morning in New Hampshire and will go on for a few months. And I'm convinced that the Republican Party will pick an heir of Reagan, a committed conservative, and somebody with a track record of changing Washington. I want to say two last things, and I think Costa will join me in both of these. The first is, and here I think you'll find Rick Santorum saying the same thing. My dad was a career soldier for 27 years. I would not have survived in this campaign against millions and millions of dollars of negative advertising if it weren't for the thousands of volunteers who showed up, and who helped us in every town and in every precinct. People who went out because they cared. We have someone up here who actually drove in from Indianapolis around Thanksgiving and said, I'm staying. We had someone else who brought 3 children and drove up from Texas and said, I'm staying. We have people who wanted to get America back on the right track. They weren't millionaires. They weren't from Wall Street. They didn't have a super PAC, but they had courage.